In this world, the supreme gods are very bored and have plenty of free time. Because of that, they created a brain game named Game of the Gods, where humans can challenge the gods and engage in battles of wit with them. One day, in the Ice Mountains, a girl woke up from her sleep after thousands of years. Researchers happened to find her and immediately contacted the Mystic Court or Arcane Court. The girl's name was Lilashia, a former goddess who descended to Earth. Lilashia announced to them that she wanted to know the greatest player of this era and meet that player face to face. Some time passed, and the Game of the Gods in the spiritual area, commonly known as the Elements, was underway and broadcasted in the city of Ruin, in the Sacrament area. The players, commonly referred to as apostles, challenged 3 gods simultaneously. Unfortunately, all the players lost, and the gods won the game they had created themselves. Faye Theophilus, the main male character, also witnessed the match. He had just returned from a long journey of 6 months in search of a very precious girl to him. Everyone knew how great Faye was in this Game of the Gods. Faye immediately returned to the Ruin branch of the Mystic Court to continue his duties. Of course, the other players looked admiringly towards Faye, who had returned from his journey. Then Miranda welcomed Faye's return, but Faye commented slightly to Miranda because the information about the girl Faye was looking for was completely wrong. Faye had found that girl, and she was not the one Faye had been searching for all this time. Miranda teased Faye's futile struggle a bit. Then Miranda wanted to talk to Faye about something while escorting him to the room on the 17th floor. Miranda explained that she intended to introduce Leshia to Faye. If Leshia's wish was to meet the greatest player of this era, Faye was the answer. It was uncertain why the former goddess descended to Earth in the form of a girl. But according to the Mystic Court, this former goddess was very different from the other gods. Upon investigation, in ancient times, the goddess was playing hide and seek with the players in the ocean. However, the goddess fell asleep, and as time passed, the earth began to enter an ice age. The goddess accidentally slept for about 3,000 years. By the way, this goddess was the incarnation of fire in the form of a dragon, and her power had diminished since becoming a former goddess. Even though she had become a former goddess, she was still a goddess. Miranda instructed Faye to be careful not to anger the goddess. If the goddess became angry, the city would vanish, and the earth would be scorched in an instant. So the main point was that Faye had to be the guardian of the goddess. The gods had begun to descend to Earth to create their own games in the spiritual area. Only Faye was the player who could fulfill the expectations of the Mystic Court. After Faye and Miranda arrived at the room of the goddess Leshia, Faye was lost in thought and surprised because Leshia's appearance resembled the girl Faye had been searching for all this time. Then Miranda told Leshia that Faye was the greatest player of this era. Faye had won 3 times in a row since his debut a year ago. Miranda's task was done, and she immediately returned to her office so as not to disturb their meeting. Faye was still lost in thought, and Leshia was confused by his reaction. When Faye wanted to introduce himself to Leshia, Leshia immediately invited him to play a simple card game. Then Leshia laid out many cards on the dining table. They would get to know each other through this game because Leshia had modified each card with biodata topics like name, birthplace, age, hobbies, etc. The rules of this card game were simple and resembled matching Uno or poker cards. However, what they matched were not numbers or colors, but the biodata topics written on each card. For example, if Leshia happened to pick 2 cards with the same birthplace written on them, Faye had to answer his birthplace, and vice versa. But if one of them couldn't find a pair for their card, the opponent didn't need to answer about the topic on that card. And they continued searching for cards with the same topic to match in each of their turns. Each biodata topic had to be answered honestly. When the game started and Leshia shuffled the cards, Faye stopped Leshia's action first. Faye wanted Leshia to reshuffle the cards because Leshia had previously arranged each card on the table to explain the rules of the game. Upon hearing that, Leshia was surprised because she suspected that Faye could remember the positions of the cards in a short time. It was even possible that Faye could see the arrangement of the shuffled cards that Leshia had just done. Well, Faye actually wanted this game to be played fairly, and it was his habit to remember the rules of any game. In Leshia's mind, she was interested in Faye because he played so cleanly like this. Then Leshia had an idea to make this game even more fun and fair for both of them. Leshia immediately flew the cards in a pattern of 2 circles. The trajectories and speeds of the cards spinning were different, so both of them had to remember certain patterns of the cards to be able to match the cards correctly. Then Leshia added one special rule. They only had 1 turn even if one of them could match the cards correctly.
じゃあゲームスタート 望むところです。
さあ、始まるわね。
While the card game was ongoing, Leshia accidentally revealed her assets to Faye on the table. Of course, Faye saw it, and he asked Leshia to hide it first. Faye became unfocused and embarrassed. Leshia said that she didn't understand how to dress like a girl, so she only wore a regular tank top bra without wearing underwear anymore. Then the game continued after Leshia corrected her way of dressing and sat on the sofa. While their game was ongoing, I will explain some additional information that can help you understand this anime story in many future episodes. So, there are 7 rules that the gods give to fulfill the game's requirements. The first rule: humans who are blessed with the power arised by the gods will become apostles who have the right to play and challenge the gods. Second, anyone who has the power arise can be categorized as a superhuman or a human with magical abilities. Third, the gods game always takes place within the elements, a superior spiritual realm. Fourth, the power arise can only be used within the elements. Fifth, as a prize, the winner of the gods games will be given the power to realize and use some of the power arise in the real world. If the players have many victories, their power will also increase. Sixth, apostles who lose 3 times in the game will be disqualified and will not participate in the gods game anymore. Lastly, if apostles have achieved 10 victories, they will be considered to have completed the gods games and will be given a celebration. The celebration mentioned in the rule is very vague in meaning because the gods will determine it themselves. But unfortunately, there hasn't been any player who could complete the gods games to use the power arise in the real world. The power arise is very useful for humans to explore areas that have not been explored. 93% of the Earth is unsuitable for human habitation. That's why Faye is the only player expected to complete the gods games. Some time passed. Faye realized that this game wasn't about who wins or loses. It was just a game to dig as deep as possible for information. And there must be cards whose function is to trap players like jokers. Faye would aim for those cards to find out more about Leshia. But unfortunately, Leshia happened to get 2 blank cards, which meant it was Leshia's chance to ask anything to Faye. Then Leshia asked with a deep tone, what was the actual plan of humans to dare to serve and approach a goddess like Leshia? Faye trembled slightly because the girl in front of him emitted a very powerful aura. Then Faye answered honestly that he was assigned to supervise Leshia. Faye had to ensure the purpose and background of Leshia. After hearing that, Leshia smiled and said that she was increasingly interested in Faye. Not only did he play seriously, but Faye could also confront a goddess like her in the real world. Then Leshia decided not to use formal language to Faye, and vice versa. Leshia understood that Faye was a human she could trust, and Faye's style of play could meet Leshia's expectations. Moreover, Leshia understood that Faye was not aiming for victory in this game from the beginning. He only focused on the information he didn't know about Leshia. Then Leshia asked Faye one more question. What would you ask when you got those blank papers? Faye revealed that he was curious why Leshia didn't return to the elements and stayed on Earth. Then, why was Leshia interested in Faye among so many players who had higher ranks than Faye? Leshia answered that it was because Faye was the only rookie who had won 3 times in a row since his debut the previous year. So, Leshia's main goal was to find a partner to conquer the gods game together. Actually, Leshia just wanted to have fun playing games with humans. However, when Leshia tried to move back to Earth, she couldn't return to the elements. This transfer was only one way, and therefore Leshia couldn't become a goddess again. But that didn't matter to Leshia because she was determined to win the gods game to become a goddess again. After hearing that, Faye suspected that Leshia also knew about the meaning of the celebration and the rules of the gods game. Leshia explained that the rumors circulating among the players were true. Anyone who managed to win 10 games, one of their requests would be granted by the gods. Not just one request, but 100 or even 1,000 requests. But unfortunately, no human had been able to complete the gods game. From here, Leshia decided to stay with Faye to continue pursuing that celebration.
っておいね
え私はずっと君みたいな人間を待ってたんだから。
何する気？
神々のゲームの始まりよ。